there is a possibility for other states and territories, non-Victorian people essentially, to be allowed into the state at some stage. But this is just another impact of what's happening in Victoria at the moment.
Yeah, and you can expect a similar announcement this afternoon from Anastasia Palaszczuk. From everything I'm hearing, at the very least, she will keep the borders shut to Victoria, and she may also extend the general border closure and review it at the end of the month, Tom, but or after another month. But the other news that I want to bring to you is and you actually messaged me about this a short time ago because you'd heard similar things. There is really serious consideration now of a big shutdown of 6 local government areas in Melbourne. The Prime Minister has spoken to the Victorian Premier about the prospect of this, and what this would involve would be a situation where you were instructed to stay at home or work from home in those areas. You would be allowed to attend work if you worked within those areas, but you'll be asked not to leave those areas for work. And I guess it could involve the shutdown of businesses in those areas as well. And it would be up to the state to see whether they wanted to deploy police to ensure this happens. So the view is the situation is getting out of control in Victoria with this outbreak, and that some serious action of the type I just mentioned it should be considered, and I understand the view of the federal government is that that should occur. The federal government's view is that the Victorian government should lock down these suburbs. That's my understanding, Tom, this morning.
It's interesting because, yeah, the murmurs have been, as much as there's been some public utterances of assurances on camera that at a federal level there was increasing concern about Victoria and whether this could get out of control. We know a key aspect is once you run out of resources with contact tracing, then suddenly you're either doing a very harsh lockdown or you're basically saying we can't suppress it anymore. The other part about this, you mentioned police. Well, according to Michael Kidd this morning, one of the issues with a lockdown compared to Burnie that happened in Tasmania, it's really hard to do around these suburbs, particularly inner city ones. And you'd have to assume, Andrew, we're talking about a pretty heavy presence and surely some help from the feds as well, if you're talking about maybe hundreds of people on the ground here to make sure this can happen.
Well, that could be the case. I mean, the PM said, whatever help you need, Daniel Andrews, I will supply. And there was a ADF request last week. So perhaps that could even be the case. But initially there'd be, I guess, these stay-at-home orders. And I really think that we're headed this way. There's no way around it. It's preferable to reintroducing restrictions across the whole Victorian economy, isn't it? And it's preferable to the fear of spread around other areas of Victoria and Australia. So, you know, we know that they've been conservative, the federal government, in terms of its views on putting restrictions on. But on this occasion, apparently, they are of the view that it's not only for a health outcome here, but for an economic outcome, I guess, that you need these local government area shutdowns.
Well, first of all, so it doesn't spread, and second of all, so the other areas can keep operating. I mean, we had the PM even ahead of this last weekend asked on television, would you go to Melbourne? He'd say, yeah, I'd go. I just wouldn't go to the hotspots. That feels increasingly like even that could be a risky strategy. So that's, you know, the harsher you are on these areas, the better off for the rest of the state. And it's a big state, remember, with a lot of places that still don't really have this outbreak at all.
Yeah, and he's made that point, the PM, hasn't he? He said, you know, Wangaratta shouldn't have the same restrictions on it as the hotspot areas of Melbourne. So that would be the view. But it's just becoming clear now. I've spoken to government sources who've suggested to me they expect the Victorian rate to go over 100 new cases a day soon. It's just all heading in that direction, isn't it? Unless something drastic is done.
Yeah.